Alrighty, good afternoon. Happy Saturday. That's a new one for us. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. I looked up the origins of Halloween, and it's a Celtic, originates from a Celtic tradition called Samhain, which is exactly not how it's spelled.
So
It
it's
doesn't
not
look,
SOIN?
no,
Is it
S
a
A
FY?
M
Oh,
S A M. Because the M is silent.
right.
You'd expect that.
Of course.
All
That's
the
why I,
weirdo stuff that we have in the English language.
that's
That'd be
why I
the
go
first
by
place.
Eichel Iyer.
There you go.
It's silent. I know it well.
So anyway, but yeah, so happy Halloween. The sun's still out. Today is the day of the time change on top of it. And then also full moon on
Mhm.
Halloween, and it's the blue moon, the second full moon in October. And evidently it's not going to be a full moon on Halloween again until 2039, I think I read,
Wow.
which you know, I don't know. I think in my past life, meaning 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I would have thought, oh my gosh, Halloween, the full moon, people are going to be nuts. I need to go lock myself in my basement, you know.
Uh-huh.
And, and and now it's more, I want to go sit on the porch and moonbathe. That's just, me. So will it have an energy on the
Transformation.
partiers? Does it have an effect on the partiers, on the Halloween celebrants? So Halloween has never been my thing. What about you? Are
Uh,
you all about costume parties and what have you?
it's hard to say because this year's tricky.
Yeah, right.
So I used
Right.
to be.
Good point. Really good point, right? Yeah, it was never really my thing.
I think I like the idea of putting on things that I usually don't wear, or Halloween's a chance to be something you're not without, or maybe something you always wanted to be without being,
Committing.
vulnerable,
Got
right? Or
Oh,
committing.
yeah, right. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, because
Didn't think about
everyone
that.
else is out being weird and wacky. What better time? Yeah, look at that. That's not a cattail. That's a rattlesnake tail. If you watch it closely, you'll see that usually only the tip does this thing. She's funny.
That's so appropriate for Halloween, right?
I know.
Um,
You never
yeah,
cute.
Halloween costumes have never been my favorite, uh, ever. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and 70s with the plastic masks that the eyes never lined up.
Mm-hmm.
So you would take the little scissors and you'd try to cut the holes out a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, put it on. Nope, still can't see, a little bit bigger. And then the next thing you know, the piece in between the eyes, like that one across the bridge of the nose, would snap. And then you'd try to put it on and wear it, and the little plastic sharp edges would poke you in the eye. And um, then the pajama looking uh, sateen costume with the little tie on the back. You'd get in it and you'd bend your leg because you had to wear your snow pants under it because it was cold, and you couldn't go out without that. So that would make it too tight, and you'd bend your leg, and the knee would split. And yeah, the Halloween costumes were never really, really much my thing. But what are you gonna do? I worked in restaurants for a while, so I got pretty good at the kind of costumes that you could wear that weren't really costumes, I guess. Little devil horns
Right,
and
right.
red
Something,
lipstick or
something uninhibiting for your function
yep,
of the
exactly.
day.
So although I mean I guess if I had the means and the place to go, some kind of really elaborate, cool like steampunk thing or Glinda or something like that would be cool. But otherwise, it's It's not my thing. I'm not a big fan of the sort of mass-produced candy either. As a rule, my taste when it comes to candy is a little bit more expensive. All that, and I only like chocolate. And people hand out candy corn. Oh God, or those little orange pumpkin things that are gross.
Yeah, I don't even know
Circus
what those are.
peanuts.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's my experience with Halloween.
I used to enjoy getting, large groups of costumed, basically a gang running around to rob people of their candy. Not other, trick or treaters. I was never that guy, but we'd really slack off until, the last 30 minutes, and then you just book it as fast as you can from house to house in hopes of getting whatever they have left because it's so close to the end.
Yeah, and people do have a tendency to do that. Oh, here you go.
Yep.
Got to get this out of my house. I can't have it here. Yeah, I get that. Interesting. Yeah, it's not been, not really ever been one of my faves. Honestly, my favorite, Thanksgiving, just is.
Giving thanks is pretty great.
Yep. And then the food, good.
Food.
There's things that I eat on Thanksgiving that I don't eat all year, and they only taste the way they taste on Thanksgiving. So, which
That's
is a little
fair.
bizarre. But this is not the Thanksgiving show. This is the Halloween show. So
That's right.
we won't go there. But I don't know. I've said it probably on a couple of talk shows, couple of episodes. I know it was in the email I sent out today, or not today, yesterday, day before, whatever. I think this is the first year that I'm really recognizing the idea that the veil thins, that veil
Mm-hmm.
between, and I just call it the energy and the physical and the energy.
We get something
Feel
over
we that's what happens when we're together. Hi
there.
Julia, hi Lena.
Yes, hello.
um
Happy Halloween.
Yes, but yes, I feel, and so it'll be interesting to see because there have been things that that when we're talking or when I'm in energy sessions, there are things that feel closer to me, like information that feels closer or
Mm-hmm.
energies that feel closer. So I'm wondering as we move away from this day, if that will, go back the way it was
Diminished
a
a
little
little
bit.
bit. Yeah.
If it's something to look forward to. That was the idea with, the Celtic idea is that, um, here, sorry. Oh, lost. It dates back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, when it was believed that the boundary between worlds of the living and the dead become blurred, and
Mm.
that through costumes, stories, and celebrations during the Halloween season, mythical beings from witches to zombies to werewolves all come to life, which I find kind of interesting. Uh, mythical, witches, zombies, and werewolves. So, mythical meaning not real, right?
Right.
I think, whoever wrote that, meaning not real. I think that I definitely believe in witches. I definitely believe in witches, but I don't believe that witches are what the folklore would have you believe they are. I believe witches are healers, right? That's my belief.
So we
I
shouldn't
don't
burn them
know
at the
about
stake.
zombies. I mean, zombies. I think that zombies are a Hollywood affectation, right? A Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
creation, zombies. Although I've seen some funny. There was not far, on a ride from work to home. There was this marina and boat sales. I don't know, place on one of the roads that I would travel down, and it had a sign out in front that said, "Zombies can't swim, buy a boat."
See, that's clever.
I
That's good
thought that
marketing
was,
right there.
yep, I thought that was really clever, because I mean, I think there was a little while there where there was a bit of a conspiracy theory that zombies really were real and the zombie apocalypse was actually on its way.
Yeah, I think that was a few years ago. There was like a fake CDC thing going around or something, and I
Yeah,
uh,
and it's really interesting because I remember as a kid, my parents were alive during H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds,
mhm.
where he did that radio show and
Yeah,
he had
yeah, yeah.
everybody believing that that we were being invaded. And
Yeah,
um
that's good
I
stuff.
think that's right. I mean, she remembered it. She actually remembered it. I don't remember whether or not she said she believed it.
Right.
I don't remember that. But man, I mean, especially back then when you didn't really question, you didn't have access to the uh
Right, right. What you got was what you got.
broad what we have now.
Yep.
If you can imagine, especially if you didn't, because I think the problem was that people didn't tune in from the beginning and hear that this was H.G. Wells telling a story. So
Mhm.
they tuned in after it started and started rolling, and they heard him, you know, oh, and it has landed in Central Park. And oh my God, I can't believe it. Look at the light coming from that ship in Central Park. And the door is opening and the
Yeah.
aliens are getting, like, I mean, it's just, and
That
and
had to
I
be wild.
I mean, if you really think about it, it because our sensibilities are different now, right? Too,
Mhm.
than they were back then. I think what we understand and what we're afraid of are different now than they were at
Well, I
one
think
time.
it's a good point too. I mean, even if you go back even further, since we were bringing up the origin and the ancient Celtic, and they're all sharing stories. Like that's all you knew at that point in time was your little campfire circle story. So what an impact that could have on those peoples. Um, just like the War on the Worlds had for people tuned into the radio. You know, generations down the road. It's interesting to think about.
Well, it kind of is because if you look at the abilities that you and I have as energy practitioners, energy healers, whatever adjective and whatever combination of words you want to put on it, um, working with the energy, manipulating the energy.
Mhm.
The idea that, our generation, well, we're of different generations, but you know what I mean. The idea that, in this century, we are the first ones to be manipulating or playing with energy, that's a little bit close-minded. So I imagine that if you think about some of the things that we can do, touch a crystal and make it, light up and vibrate, or the things that we, those kind of things, in a time when people were afraid of everything they couldn't see, afraid of the dark, it's no wonder that witches who had the same capabilities as we were treated as, you know, something to be feared. And
Right.
so the powerful, the powerful always have been a threat to those in power, you know,
Mhm.
right? And must be dealt with in some way. So um
Fair
I
enough.
don't know. It's an interesting rabbit hole to go down, in your mind and your thinking
Mhm.
and in meditation and go visit. I particularly have a, oh, how far out do I put that conversation, right? When I sit and think about the things that go on and the things that I see, how much of that do I put out there? But so it's interesting to me that there is so much fear around the things that people can't see. It's almost as though people just absolutely have to believe that manifestations of things they can't see have to be evil. Like, is it not within their like how do you, I don't believe that like the presence of ghosts. That doesn't scare me. It's never scared me. I was a little more trepidatious back then than I am now,
Sure.
but it's not, I've never been afraid for my life. A Ouija board, never been afraid of a Ouija board ever. As
Mm-hmm.
soon as I figured out a Ouija board could only tell me things I already knew, I was like, this is crap. you know I've interacted with the Ouija board in a way that it started showing me like my energetic capabilities a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I didn't understand what was happening, so it could have looked a little scary, but I was like, this is crap. It's not, I'm not communicating with anybody but myself. I mean, I literally remember thinking that. So
Mm-hmm.
um so it's interesting in my mind. So ghosts. What about? So I was looking at, somebody was heading last night to a paranormal investigation of the
Mm-hmm.
old Joliet prison, which in my mind, I don't know how much paranormal activity would be happening in Joliet, because it wasn't really, it's not like Alcatraz, or you know what I mean? Sing
Sure.
Sing, like it wasn't really a maximum security, criminally insane place. But so the idea that they're going to go and they'll probably find ghosts. What is that? What I mean, do we look at those things, and or the TV, now the TV shows I'm a little bit less and not afraid, but a little bit less likely to believe, because I think that on TV a lot of times they blow things out of proportion.
Well, you got to make it entertaining, right?
Right, because people want to be scared. I don't personally like to be scared at all. Like, I don't want you to sneak up on me and startle me. I don't like any of that. So that's me. And yet I'll be the first one to say, "Oh, let's go spend the night in a haunted house."
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? What does that sound
Yeah,
like?
just coming from a different perspective on, on what you're looking for, like a different, what you want something out of it. Someone who might just go to a, like a pop-up haunted house may just like that adrenaline rush of being scared in that moment.
Yeah, that I
Whereas,
don't. I have never liked that ever. Never been my thing. As a matter of fact,
I
it's
can't say that if I have or I haven't really. It's I don't know, it produces a unique experience
sure.
chemically in my body. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, I've been to plenty, but I still on the fence if I enjoy that or not. It's kind of funny.
Wow.
So I got to
It's
keep
taking
going
you
back,
that
I
long to
guess.
figure it out.
Still haven't figured it out. Still don't know.
Wow, that's interesting. Um, that's really interesting. Like, I mean, that's we're all an enigma, right? We're all that human sort of mind. Like, well, I mean, we talked about it even last night. Well, try it, test it out, see if it works, see how you like it. Ask the question. Um, I think a lot of people are attached to the idea that there's evil. And I mean, in my mind, I'm not afraid of ghosts, because I believe that ghosts are earthbound souls who need to be, who are like out of sorts or lost or whatever. So I think they should get our compassion and not fear, right? So that's me. So with that said, I can't say that I've never been in a place where I felt something, I suppose, that felt evil. But the truth is, I also don't believe there are any troubled souls or evil souls. I believe there are evil humans.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a kind of a paradox. Now, I know I was in the Dole Mansion and it was on Halloween with one of the local guys who does mind reading shows and that kind of thing. And we went up to the top. It's an old home. Well, the Dole Mansion.
Yep.
And it's an old home, and people lived there in the 1800s, owned at one time by the Ringling family. And I remember we climbed up to the top, and I got to the top of the stairs, and I was like, all of a sudden, it was like the breath was just sucked out of my lungs. And I was like, well, that's bizarre. Not like the regular huffing and puffing from climbing the stairs, but literally like, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so I realized in my, excitement that number one, I hadn't prepared myself energetically in the way that I would normally do in a space like that. And then I found out that somebody that lived there had died of pneumonia. Right? So, so what is that? That's an imprint, I think. I don't think that's their ghost being stuck behind, but more an energetic imprint of something that happened in that place over and over. Somebody that couldn't breathe. You know what I mean? Like, so am I completely nuts and there's some guy with a machete behind me with a hockey mask on getting ready to take me out, or what?
Well, see, you're lucky because you don't have long drapey curtains.
Oh, good point.
Yep.
Good point. Yeah, there are no long drapey curtains here at all. That is a very good point. I mean, because we live in Crystal Lake, which interestingly enough, my first when I owned my tax office, it was on Elm Street. And I quite often referred to it as the Nightmare on Elm Street, if you want to know the truth. I am not a horror fan either. I'm not a fan of the horror movie genre myself.
And yet here you are teamed up with someone named Michael Myers. How about that?
I know. Is that crazy? My husband and I were laughing about that last night. I thought, what can you imagine? So, yeah, that's really something.
Yep. And it used to be a lot more prevalent where people would be like, oh my God, that's your name? It's like, yeah, it's my name. Like, especially when I was younger, like, why'd you pick that? It's like, I was, 8. I was like, I didn't pick that name.
Why did you pick it?
I mean, maybe I did. Depends what you believe. But, and then I went and voted today, and the lady today was like, okay, your name? I was like, Meyer or Michael. She's like, oh, I bet you never get anything about that. I was like, only on today. Only today. Or whenever they decide to reboot that series.
Wow, that's
or
so
if there's
funny.
another Austin Powers movie that comes out or something like that, then I'm, an international man of mystery, which that can be fun.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's nothing wrong.
I got options with my name. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. So funny. It's so funny. So, how about this? Did you ever hang out in graveyards when you were a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too.
No, we always used to go play, Ghosts in the Graveyard or.
Oh, like when you were younger, like a kid. See,
yeah.
In my mind, a kid is like 20.
Oh, right.
That's a different thing. But we didn't have access to any graveyards like when I was young enough to play something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
like my later teens, we would always wait till the witching hour, early in the morning and go travel to supposedly haunted places. We just call it ghost hunting, nothing sweet ever happened, but kind of like walking into a haunted house, that kind of semi-adrenaline rush of what if, how cool would it be? So I enjoyed that aspect of it, but
yeah, I did too. I had a friend who was always with the now remember this is in the 70s, so the cassette recorder in the graveyard trying to record voices. I find that so funny because sitting there with the recorder listening, recording, hoping, wishing, whatever, for a voice to come out of nowhere and say something on the cassette tape. And then now I just hear it. Like, what is that all about? But nothing, but this guy had a little bit of a cruel streak, so he was good for, getting you distracted and then walking up behind you and
Sure.
scaring you and stuff like that. And that's just not my thing. I will hurt somebody. Like, I'm known to swing, like, I just am. That just
I mean, it's
is. I don't.
that's a valid physical response, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, I've been known to swing, and then, not that it's about Halloween, but those people that like to, if you yawn and they want to stick their finger in your mouth.
That's
Yeah,
me.
don't do that to me. Do not do that to me. You will not be happy if you do that to me, because I will bite you. But um and I've done it, and I remember this girl, she looked at me, she's like, "Why'd you do that?" I said,
Why'd you stick your
"Shouldn't
finger
be
in my
that
mouth?
hard to figure out."
That's
Anyway,
funny.
so, people acting crazy like that. So, I don't know, I think there are a lot of people who are really, really attached to the idea of this. There is an adrenaline piece to it, I suppose, with the
Hmm.
horror and the scary things that, people appreciate. It's not my thing, but remember, I don't like anxiety either, so maybe
Right.
that's part of it. I was trying to see, um sometime I would like to maybe look at some of the myths, and see if we can pull some energetic information, to sort of correlations, or to sort of support the
Hmm.
myths a little bit, because I think that there are some that are. I think there are some things that people have given up completely as fantasy or nonsense that I think are rooted in truth, and then I think there are other things that are completely rooted in shenanigans.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of things that are super rude in truth tend to get detached by humans as time goes on, and spun into something else. Like witches and ghosts, pretty much everything that we're
Yeah,
talking
right.
about today.
Right. I mean, I remember some of those creepy things that we used to do, that like Bloody Mary and
Hmm.
whatever those things were, looking in the mirror. And when I think back to some of those things, and I can't honestly say that I can remember anything, precisely how it went off the top of my head. When I think back, I think that some of those things had uh, pieces that are similar to the things that we do now, like chanting, right? Saying
Hmm.
something over and over again. We know that generates some kind of energetic consequence, we'll say.
Hmm.
Um, and then focus. You were hyper focused on, like, the candle flame or something like that. Also can bring about a consciousness piece, like an altered consciousness piece.
Hmm.
So, and those are things that I'm absolutely 100% not afraid of, now that I know how to use them to my advantage,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, I think fire's always kind of had a it's carried on through the generations. What sitting around a campfire can do. Since you were brought up staring at a flame, I mean, that was story time or rhythmic dancing time. So it was, and I think that stuff. I don't know anyone who doesn't love sitting around a fire and staring at a fire. Maybe that's probably just because I don't know those people, but I'm sure there's some out there.
You
But
do. You do. You know
I'm sure.
one.
After I said it, I was like, I guarantee Angie's one of those people.
You know one. It's
That's why
not
I
my
kind of
thing.
averted my eyes so I could finish the thought.
But I will say, it's just not something I enjoy. However, I can see the draw.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can understand. For me, it's I don't like the smoke.
Yeah, figured.
Much like the sage, and I don't like the smell. I don't. It bothers me. But I remember when I was a kid, I was so enthralled with there was a piece of art that would come out every year, and it was an old man staring at a campfire, and then in the smoke you would see like the outline of and back then it was Indians, right? We said Indians, we call them Indians. So no, I am not trying to be un-PC or use the wrong word at this moment. I'm just reaching back into the recesses of my mind. But I remember I would stare at that cartoon. It was like a cartoon. It pops up on Facebook, usually every year around this time. I've seen it a couple times. I don't remember exactly like what the name of the art was, but I remember I would sit and stare at the smoke on that. I would sit and stare at the smoke on that cartoon, and I would swear that I could see those dancers starting to dance, and I could start to hear, that drum and um I could hear it in the background, like I think that I began with the idea of focus and going inside to collect information a very, very long time ago. And it's just not until recently that I've figured out how to sort of hone it and bring it forward to a place where I can use it. Did you find it?
No, no, I didn't. I gave up. It didn't last very
Uh,
long. I was like, they're all very vague search words for what I was looking for, but
uh, yes.
that would have taken me the whole rest of the half hour. Well, already half hour in. How about that? Yeah. Forgot I was just gonna say something. What else? What are other things besides earthbound spirits, ghosts,
Oh gosh.
vampires?
Demons,
Demons.
vampires. I think there's a lot of lore around vampires, and I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that they're well, I mean, isn't it rooted I don't know the story of Vlad the Impaler, but
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I,
he was he impaled people. That's for sure. That's what they say in the books.
yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean
well
it's
versed in it either. I don't know if I can assume that maybe there was probably some blood drinking going on, and that was probably.
you know what?
I mean, people probably had reason to be fearful of that one.
I would
So,
actually I'm with you, and not only that, but um I feel like there's a lot of people out there that do a lot of weird things, but
mhm.
for whatever reason, it brings to mind, and I always felt like the Doors, Jim Morrison and the Doors. I always felt like they were a little weird. Like I came up while their music was pop, like when their
Mhm.
music was new, and it was never something like. To me, there was always something about it that I didn't quite care for, but I couldn't put my finger on. And then I watched the movie, and it was Val Kilmer was in it, and I can't remember her name, but Jim Morrison was, like a blood drinker. So bizarre, but true. And I don't know, so maybe there is some weird thing out there that makes people think they want to drink blood. I don't know. I don't know.
Can't say
But
I've ever
yeah,
done it
I
to
think
my
things are
knowledge.
rooted in truth.
Yeah, so it looks like there's actually been almost every ancient civilization has always had a thing associated with drinking bloods of others, but the term vampire wasn't coined until much, much later. like 18th century. So the idea has always
Interesting.
been there.
Yeah, I mean, you have that. There's a significant segment of the population that appreciates horror and bizarre. Like, I'm like, no, that's okay. I'm good. Like, I don't need it. But there are a lot of people out there that, find entertainment or what have you in such things. It's not really my cup of tea, I guess I would put it. But I'm much more interested in the idea of, I mean, I've made peace with earthbound spirits. I've had conversations with them, right? I've made peace with the idea of ascended masters and what have you. I've had my version of conversations with them. And I'm not going to, at this moment, tell you whether I believe they were real conversations or not. So I'm going to keep that one to myself. But I think for me, the whole conversation or the idea of the conversation sort of circles around what I see in people. People we work with, people who come across our path as we're doing our work, who are afraid that there are energies in their home that shouldn't be there, or they have not gotten to the place, that's a good way to put it, where they understand that they are completely in control of whether or not those energies are welcome in their home. That kind of thing, and I see people who are so afraid of, oh my God, my pendulum is possessed by a demon. No, it's not. It's a rock on a chain. Your energy is ramping up because you're getting anxiety because you think you're talking to a demon. So your energy is ramping up and that thing is stirring around,
Yep.
So
I used to get a lot of people come into the crystal shop for various reasons. A lot of it was a lot of people looking have a religious background, looking for a last resort because things were happening in their household.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. Coming in looking for the typicals of sage, black crystals, and stuff like that. And it was always just kind of it was kind of humorous to me because it would be like the almost the last person that I would suspect to come in there, but like these people were at their wits' end with what to do, and I didn't have the belief structure that I had now that I had then. So it wasn't in my frame of mind to be like, well, did you ask him to leave? Did you tell him to go and believe it? Because you are in complete control. This was in the beginning
Right.
of my transition into this way of thinking, but it makes a lot of sense because they probably did, but not themselves. They were probably giving their power up to something else. So thinking about it now, it all makes sense as to why they were really there
Wow.
in the first place. But yeah, and some of them were like super just weird stuff. But I mean, although I gave them ideas at that time that were pretty general, but apparently they were because I never saw them again. Either that or the house swallowed them. So
Yeah, that could
we'll
be.
go with that. I helped them.
So here's something, because this is something I've been giving a lot of thought to, and something I actually believe is that I think that some of those things, especially, and I wonder if this is not why some of the, sage and those kind of things maybe don't work. I think that some of those, what word? destructive is probably not the right word, but I'll use destructive, or chaotic energies in their homes, because that's kind of what it sounds like you're describing.
Mm-hmm.
Weird things are happening, things are falling off, or whatever.
Yep.
Um, I actually think that, and not always, certainly, because I believe that earthbound spirits can figure out how to interact with solid matter. I do believe that. But I think that some of them, that chaotic energy, is not even really attached to any kind of an actual consciousness, except that it's like a negative thought form, right? Like if you think
Mm-hmm.
about, I mean, that's the best example of a negative thought form is in the Frankenstein movie when all the villagers are storming the castle, because they want with their what do you call them?
Pitchforks and torches.
Pitchforks and torches, right? Because they're afraid of the Frankenstein monster, who, by the way, was the most docile and gentle giant there was, right? Who didn't know his own strength, and that, so there was really nothing to be afraid of in that monster anyway. But if you think about the energy coming off of that large group of people, forming a cloud that people walk through and can sense all that, you know, discontentment and anger
Mm-hmm.
and fear, it would certainly feel like an evil spirit. And I think that it would feel like an evil spirit to the degree that it could interact with energy in your home, especially electronic things. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that some of the things that people are dealing with and some of the energies that need to be cleared in a home aren't entities at all, except to say that they are generated energetic imprints of entities, or like, let's say, I mean, the idea of, a miserable old widow woman lives in a house for the last 30 years of her life, all by herself, miserable because and nobody will spend any time with her because she's absolutely miserable, constantly whining and all of that. And then when she leaves, people believe her home is haunted by her because they feel her presence, and it makes them feel cold or negative or scared when they walk in the door. Well, of course, it feels exactly the same as it did while she was there, right? That
Right.
energy doesn't just dissipate because she died. So, am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know that it matters. I think that, what about, do you think there's anything really that people need to actually be afraid of?
Who said that? What is that? What? There's nothing to fear but fear itself, right? Who was that? Was that FDR? Who was that?
Oh, yeah.
Who
Who
was
who
that?
did? That's a good one.
FDR. 1933 inaugural address.
Fascinating if you think about the merry-go-round that statement actually is. Nothing to fear but fear itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because let's face it, fear. I can't actually think of too many things I'm actually afraid of. I know there are things that make me uncomfortable that I don't enjoy,
Sure.
but actual fear, I don't. Now, I had a lot when I was when I was a kid. Man, oh my God, I was traumatized with fear. Fear of Armageddon, fear of the rapture, fear of the second coming, and I didn't really believe what I was being told to believe. And, so I thought I was going to be left on the planet all by myself. That kind of fear, like fear that the world was going to end, and I didn't know what that meant. To the point where I couldn't sleep at night without a TV on, and, to distract me. So I understand fear very, very much. I understand fear. And as my belief system has shifted, the amount of fear that I carry has shifted. But I can certainly see why people are walking around in fear. But what does that mean, do you think? The most destructive emotion is fear. And that's why you should be afraid of it, which is bizarre because, like, do you fear fear? There's nothing to fear but fear itself. It's a merry-go-round. Maybe it's a paradox. Like he was just trying to get everybody on the merry-go-round so they'd leave him alone.
Well, it worked. It worked for what, 12 years?
Yep, it sure did.
I mean, I like it because, it's to me, it says that, you don't actually have to be afraid of anything.
Yeah.
I think it's originally a Henry David Thoreau quote. Actually, now that I'm reading in here more. But who knows? That's not what this is about. That's for later when I'm bored. Yeah, but once you allow fear to enter into your psyche, then that's when it becomes crippling. And if you don't have that, I mean, you're good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because it's the most simplest concept and yet the most difficult thing to let go of. And it's really like interesting because when you think about fear and the way that it resonates or the way that it emanates and the ripples that it can create, I have a memory of a family in our neighborhood. Mother was deathly afraid of thunderstorms. Where that came from, I don't know, but so afraid that whenever there was a thunderstorm, she was across the street in the basement of the neighbor's house because, that's just what you do. So afraid. Like, I mean, it could just be a couple of cracks of lightning and a thunder, bolts of lightning and a couple of whatever you call it, of thunder. And she was like flipping her wig. Well, the problem with that is that now the two kids become deathly afraid. And then on top of it, because the dog gets left alone every time there's a storm, now the dog is afraid too.
Yeah.
So that fear not only crippled her, but it emanated, and really, I guess, directly and negatively affected, the other people in the home. So, and the idea of being afraid of a thunderstorm to me is as well, I guess it makes more sense than being afraid of, the end of the world, but it was so, I'm guessing that she had parents or a mother or something that were also afraid of storms.
Mm-hmm.
Me, me, I'm the one that was on the balcony facing the Atlantic Ocean during the storm, and I decided after my breath got sucked out of my lungs for the second time, maybe I better go inside. So, in another life, I'd be a storm chaser. So I don't quite get that. So, but I never actually looked into it, but the idea of ghosts or goblins or evil spirits or whatever you want to call it, and a person is afraid, they're afraid of what they can't see. And do you think the mind has the capability to manufacture or put together a puzzle of things that happen, like the door accidentally blows open and those hinges creak, combined with, something hit the window and, puts together this puzzle, and the mind is like reaching, and all of a sudden the person like basically scares themselves to death because and when you really actually stand back and look at it, it's, four things that actually are nothing, but all
Right,
put
you
together
left
as a
the window
puzzle.
open. There was a breeze. Yeah, and I think, I mean, we both know. I think everyone, knows that the mind does that, whether they're consciously aware of it or not. I mean, we make up our own narratives and our own stories all the time to four separate things happening. It depends what you're primed to see, what your belief structure is, and what your mind diet is at that point in time. I mean, it's your.
Ooh, mind diet.
I know that was a good one.
Yeah. Wow. How do you manage your mind diet? Oh, I love it. Well, folks, look for our next book, The Mind Diet. I'm going to go copyright that right now. Anyway. Ooh. Yeah, right? Like, so, okay, so you know what? It's good that you brought that one up because it leads me to nightmares. We don't have a lot of time left, but I think nightmares is a good way to end Halloween and maybe a little ghost story or something. Who knows? But I've often said that, we run across a lot of people that have bad dreams or, like my friend Linda's got, her significant other has nightmares. Falls out of bed actually from time to time. Um, and I've always asked, what do they do before bed? Like, well, he sits and watches the iTube. It's that friend, the iTube. Um, and this is another awareness that I've always had was that if I fall asleep watching something in particular or while the TV's on, that what if I remember a dream, it mimics what's happening on the screen.
Of course.
So it's input, right? Your mind
Yep.
is processing input. So the idea that some of these way out there travels or some of the way these, and I'm not diminishing astral travel, that's not what we're talking about, but I think, don't you think that sometimes people create their own nightmares by their input from the hour, let's say, before they go to sleep?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean that's what you gave your brain to work with
Your
for
mind diet.
your mind diet for the rest of the night. It's going to digest that and spit out whatever it wants. And I mean, who knows? I don't want to take up our last 5 minutes talking about dreams and where they are and what they come from and blah 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 blah. But
No, right.
I mean, it's definitely a large contributing factor because, like, I mean, all this we've been watching Nightmare on Elm Streets. We have a nice spinny, like, Wheel of Fortune board thing that we dry erase like scary movies to write on there, and then we just flip them and spin or watch them as roommates. We haven't done any of them yet because we've all just been haven't figured it out. But so we've been watching things that we've all seen, scary movie wise. We've been going through the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and that's been a big thing playing through my mind as I'm watching it because it's all about dreams and it's
Oh yeah, I actually that I want to say Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the last horror movies I watched, and I was traumatized by Freddy Krueger for sure.
those movies are funny. They're so over the top. It's great.
Well, yeah, right, they are now with that awareness, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I find like that something watching something like that now is different than it was,
Oh, I mean, sure.
back in the day. Sure, right? Like I mean it's interesting that but if you really think about it, that circles all the way back, just that those comments circle all the way back to the idea that you are in complete control of what happens with the unseen around you, right? Those nightmares are products of your mind diet, and you
Mm-hmm.
are in control of your mind diet, right?
That's very
Unless you're
true.
a kid and I mean, children don't have free will like grown-ups do. So, but you're in control of your mind diet. Interesting. So, what did we establish? Anything? Ghosts are real, but you don't need to be afraid of them. Demons are
I was gonna say
probably energetic imprints.
I was gonna say something about managing your input, but I feel like that's gonna be a talk show here coming up.
Say something about what?
You're managing your input, but I feel like that's gonna be a
Oh yeah, that's
expanded talk
probably
show here in the near future. So
yeah. I think
um,
that's probably part of the self-care series for
I think
November.
so. I think so.
Yeah, I think that it's really an important
We're gonna,
piece.
but now we have a new word to throw in there: mind diet. How about that?
Yeah, I mean seriously, mind diet. That's a whole social media series. Mind diet.
There you go.
Just saying. Stay
Yeah,
tuned, people.
yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess there is one more thing that I always wanted to mention if I was ever able to have a conversation like this. The idea of poltergeists, right? Not like the movie Poltergeist, which is pretty funny if you think about it. The idea that they live in the TV, kind of hilarious. But actual poltergeists, the ones that create mischief. And I really started thinking about that and working with, property clearing and things like that, where things go missing or things get knocked down and stuff like that. And I realized often that the presence of, believe it or not, teenagers, especially boys, in the home was a real thing, right? And now, can
Hmm.
you imagine teenage angst, all that, all of that, and the energy that gives off, that collects in a way that creates chaos? I mean, it just makes perfect sense to me.
Hmm.
Which is not to say that I don't believe there are actual spirits that can manipulate solid matter, that have
Right.
learned to participate in the energy. That I believe that there are those that can do that, but I don't think you need to be afraid of them. I think that it would be more fun to play with them, right? No,
I would definitely agree.
right?
I don't think I've had any concrete experiences like that where, I was staring at the fireplace and I watched the perfectly stable candlestick get swiped off the mantle, Something not something as concrete as that to where I could be like, what the hell was that? But um but I don't think that I'd be more curious knowing what I know now if that
Right?
happened. Because like if that thing wanted to hurt me in that instance, it could have just taken the candlestick and bashed me over the head with it. It didn't just need to knock it off the mantle. So why was that the first move kind of deal? But I could have gotten my
Yeah, right. Like, why? Would be
so
fun.
could be fun. But so yeah, I don't think that there is anything really to be afraid of. I think all of this stuff is more fun than anything. And I think that it's really just, I mean, a lot of, you said in the beginning, it all comes from fear of the unknown. And that's really all fear is in general.
Yep.
The root cause is always just things we can't see or feel or understand or, make contact with. So if we don't have any of those connections to it, we just start to fear it because then we can't figure it out.
Exactly. And it's, I don't even know why, but all of a sudden, as you were sitting there talking, I was reminded of, um, it's so stupid, but an episode of the Brady Bunch where they were talking about selling the house, and the kids didn't want to move from the house, so they set up this whole thing, like a string on a rocking chair, and hid up in the attic to make noises. And so when potential buyers would come in, the doors would creak and the chair would rock, and you could see nobody doing it, and it would scare the buyers off. Naturally, they got in a lot of trouble, but then, of course, they realized that, oh, the kids don't want to move, so we're gonna just go ahead and stay. But I think it's the idea that a good majority of those unexplained things are probably manufactured by people who are trying to achieve some kind of result, I think is a likely concept, right?
Yes. Yes. So I mean, at that point, I mean, like if you're going on a ghost tour, that is like guided, I would much rather have a whole bunch of things happen than nothing, because that's not what I went there for. I could have gotten that sitting at home. So on that same end, I would rather, even if I know it's totally fabricated, but yeah, throw a shadow in the mirror. Otherwise, it's like, well, I could have walked around the neighborhood all by myself. I didn't need to give you money to do
Right?
it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, exactly, right? I know we're going over, but what's another 2 minutes? I was thinking about that because I went actually in that same crystal shop that you worked at. Attended like a Victorian kind of seance type of thing. Um, and the issue, of course, with that is it was in that space where I am fully aware that there is the presence of a couple of say it in plural, I don't know,
Vortexa.
vortex. There you go. There are at least two that I'm aware of in that space.
Sure.
But then the crazy idea, like, if there's anybody here, turn on this flashlight. Come on now, turn on the flashlight. If you're here, turn on the flashlight. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't know about that. I mean, it was fun. I had a good time. I enjoyed myself. But the idea of being guided through an experience like that is, you know, um, although I will say that it morphed itself, because it was led by a medium
Mm-hmm.
into, people. What's interesting, so it was led by a medium, so it morphed into people getting messages from their loved ones or whatever. And it's really funny because when I think about it, I personally believe in mediums, believe in being able to contact, loved ones and the other side, but never have I ever been the one that got a message from a medium. Even when I was working inside of a mediumship workshop, the people that I worked with, they got nothing from me. I'm like, what is it? So, but with that said, to your point, that was fun, but it was so organized and there were so many people in so many different um, stages of belief, I guess is a good way
Mm-hmm.
to put it. Some people who were there to be scared because they didn't believe it. There were skeptics. There were people who were absolutely certain they could make all the connections in the world when in fact they couldn't. But all of those things. I'd rather find a neighborhood that it is said, you know, there have been activities and take my own curated group of people
Right.
to go there and have a walk and visit, and what do you get, like, not for any reason except for to have the experience, you know
Mm-hmm.
not, although probably if we were to live stream something like that we could become influencers. I'm just saying. No.
Then we'll
Oh
show up
my
on
gosh, I
Influencers
don't
in the
know.
Wild.
Yeah, anyway, so
Um,
it is Halloween. People are probably heading out to get candy. Ghosts, ghouls. I'm not afraid. Are you afraid?
no,
No, not afraid.
I
No.
used to be.
Me too. Me too. Me too. Me too. I most definitely.
No, but
Um.
not to go over too much more, but I had free reign of all movies. I had a very cool older sister who had quite the collection. So she'd be like, "Let's just watch this." I'm like, "Great, Shan, whatever you want." And she always had a bucket of candy, so every day was kind of like Halloween for me. So,
Well, see that. I mean, uh, how much more do you need? Crazy. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, they weren't. let's see. I stopped reading horror after The Shining. If you have any idea when that came out, you know how long it's
Mhm.
been. My imagination's too vivid. I'm pretty sure that Nightmare on Elm Street is the last horror flick. Although as little as I watch horror flicks, I am also very aware that they always run up the stairs. Why is that, by the way? It's like that new. I don't know what the commercial is, but it's sort of patterned after a horror flick. And the girl goes, "Well, why don't we just get in the running car?" And the guy goes, "Oh no, you can't do that. Let's go hide behind the wall of hacks or chainsaws." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's so
That's it.
cliche, right?"
That's perfect. That'll do it.
So yeah, I remember the what is that one? The Exorcist. That was.
Mhm.
I don't think that one. I mean, that one was like bizarre, visually, but I don't know that it would have been anywhere near as creepy without the music.
Well, and I was gonna bring that up that just like there are certain things, like binaural beats that kind of put you in that meditative state with the offset frequencies. There are also studied sequences and tones and melodies that put people on edge, and put you into that place of fright and like primed to be scared. So it's interesting.
Right? Yeah. So that, I mean, watch it without the sound and it's just pea soup.
Yeah, which I mean, uh, it's amazing for composers and people who write music for movies because they literally sit there and just watch the edited movie, or usually not even the fully edited movie, and just like, just put music to this. It's like, oh man.
I
it's,
know,
it's
right?
weird to watch. It's weird to
But
watch.
it's genius. I mean, it's you think about those people and they're connected to they're connecting to energy, right? They gotta be.
Hmm.
They're connecting to the energy that's coming off the screen, and they're either creating a dissonance or what's the opposite of dissonance? Resonance, whatever. They're either making it, because some of that horror stuff is dissonant. The sounds are dissonant, right?
Right.
And then some are just not. And so they've got to be connecting to the energy of what they're seeing and hearing and feeling from the movie in order to, find that groove in that pattern to understand where to put the music.
Right.
I would be willing to bet that is what the really outstanding ones do. So that's my opinion
I would
anyway.
have to agree with that. Ooh, excuse me.
Wow, look, that talk show goes over. Good grief. Imagine that. We could talk for longer than an hour,
Who would have thought?
right? So, anyway, all right. Well, Halloween, people go get your costumes on, travel safe, don't eat too much candy. And if nobody shows up, don't eat all the candy you bought.
There you go.
Take a moment or two to, if the weather allows and if it's visible, to sit out and bask in that moonlight tonight.
Hmm. Good call.
Yeah, that'll be, and if you don't have too many to lug out, you know, the crystals do like the full moon.
Sure do.
Yeah. So it was pretty vivid over my house last night. Like lit up the neighborhood like there were lights turned on. It was so clear and so beautiful. So I very much
Mhm.
enjoy the energy of the full
I
moon.
think it should be a pretty decent night tonight. I'm gonna go spend some time out there right after this.
Well, there you go. Sounds like an excellent plan.
Sure
All
does.
right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining us. If you did, thanks so much for listening. If you're listening later, if you are listening on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, please click that button.
Please do. It's
Um,
for Christmas on Halloween. It's the nightmare before Christmas.
there you go.
Sorry, I went off into my own little thought pattern. Never mind. Anyway, so it's tomorrow at 10 a.m. We've got. Are we gonna do it earlier? Or are we gonna do
9:45. Yeah, it's tomorrow at 9:45. We've got.
If you don't tune in till 10, you'll just get to watch the whole thing. Anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, 9:45, first one of the month. Our little energy exploration extravaganzas that we do, and yeah, we'll have more stuff coming up in the coming weeks. So we got a brand new theme for next month.
Yep. Self-care, all about self-care. Perfect time for it too, right? Leading into the holiday time. That's the time where, so many of us forget to put ourselves first. So we are looking at some exciting things. And a new rollout is that we're going to match the energy on the Thursday evening energy sessions to the topic of that talk show from the Wednesday. So there'll be a lot of good session work happening on Thursday evenings too.
Nice and
so that will be something to look forward to for sure. And we've decided we're going to put those energies in the title on the YouTube channel, so they'll be easy to find.
We're already gonna. Yep.
So, other than that,
making progress. Love it.
Yeah. Look for starting in November the spiritual empowerment circle to happen. So if you're looking to expand that intuition for yourself, create a space where you can speak to the earthbound spirits for yourself. We'll be around to help you with that. Looking forward to that one. That'll be a 6-week program as well. Looking forward to that one.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah. So I guess that's the end of the shameless plugs.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
That's all right.
Hey, that was them. There we go.
Yep, there you go. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy Halloween.
For the moon.
Try to see the veils thinning and, look for the opportunity to show somebody the light.
Yeah, dust off that Ouija board. Have a seance. It'll be fine. Nothing to be afraid of.
Honestly, I wish I had one still. I really do. I really do, because I think it would be fun to play with now. It's kind of like using a pendulum, right? Really, if you think about it. Actually, an expanded pendulum because it's got letters on it. So anyway.
This is true.
Yeah, and yes and no. And
maybe we'll carve a big one into the wood floors in the space.
Oh, that's a great plan. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, really, really good plan.
Well, wood burning
really good plan.
All right.
but we could put one on poster board and tape it to the floor.
That's not going to do it for me. It's got to be wood burned or nothing.
Then it's nothing. And we're going to have to go with nothing.
Fair enough.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you in the morning. Have a great evening. He's Michael.
I'm Angie. Wait. Nice.
He's Michael.
That's Angie.
There you go. Thanks for joining us. Check out the moon. We'll see you in the morning.
Take care.